Hello SGD, and this will be part 2. I'll do these in a series. So first part, Serapeum of Saqqara and Lost Ancient High Technology debunked, number 1. So that one was focusing on how the stones were moved within the block. Now I want to add some information there because I recently was given some awesome info in regards to the archaeological record and how they were moved. So what I proposed in this part 1, there's actual physical evidence of that being used at the Serapeum of Saqqara itself. I was proposing a possible method, but there's actual great evidence for that there, and I'll do that in a review at the end. But also underneath the Serapeum of Saqqara, lost ancient high technology that is superior to that of today. So this will be the theme of this part of the video. So for instance, there's a comment here at the top. You see this type, I get it all the time. This was today I saw on someone, Stefan Milo did a video on granite working, and it's the type of thing you get very often. Why don't they demonstrate a full-size box like the ones in the Serapeum with those 90-degree angles, hyper-perpendicular to each other, and make it so smoothly a scientific ruler doesn't shine through when it's placed on the surface? Once they demonstrate that with such a saw, sure, I'm sold. So, and this is a common theme that scientists against myth for one, it's always, well, why don't you make an artifact like I'm a pharaoh and I can just summon up people for, even 10 people for a month, I'm not a Rothschild or something like that. But so it's firstly it can't be done, or you can't drill, or you can't make those striations, you can't make the taper, or you can't cut and get the curved lines. Well, then you do it, and then it's just, we'll shift up. Well, now you have to build me a pyramid type of argument. So now you could say, well, that's just some, random keyboard smasher, don't take them seriously. But this is literally the argument presented by the people who are involved in this industry, producing slick videos, taking people on tours, making all sorts of claims about the establishment and academic mainstream not recognising, not doing the work and that type of thing. So, for instance, Christopher Dunn, we're going to look. He is basically the godfather when it comes to this lost ancient high technology precision. So he sets up a set of rules. Have experts examine rigorously and thoroughly the original artifact, paying close attention to the most difficult characteristics to reproduce. Describe the theorized methods used by the Egyptians, then perform the work including that which is most difficult, then compare the experimental results with the original artifact, taking into account all the characteristics of the original. Well, you couldn't argue with that off, philosophically speaking, but there are some big problems here. Now, well, so next I want to examine the clear claims of precision presented by Christopher Dunn and repeated through all those in the lost ancient high technology megalithic tour industry. So basically what they're arguing is that I'm saying this is precise, you must go measure for precision, then you must replicate it, and then I'll be sold. Then I'm convinced. Well, it's that's great. Everyone has to do the labour except for you. If you're proposing something, you have to do some of the work. But they do make specific claims, and so before we look at question number 2 and number 3, describe the methods and then perform the work, which is already being done. All the individual elements are put together, but so let's go first. What are the claims? So evidence presented for lost ancient high technology at the Serapeum of Saqqara. Also, it's been a recent new trend amongst those defending it in the comments section. I would say sock puppets, because you never actually see those channels themselves never engage. But what I always get, well, it's a straw man, that you're straw manning their argument. They never said that. They never said this. They never claimed that. Well, it's not a straw man if that is exactly what they say. And so before we go to the next step, we have to be very clear on who is saying what and what their claims are and what their demands are. And so let's do that now.
And the mystery only deepens when you see what the tunnels lead you to. 24 mighty, precision-carved, single-piece stone boxes and matching gigantic lids, combined weighing up to 100 tons, most of which are finished and polished so well that they are still reflecting light after millennia in the dust.
So no argument can be made that I'm straw-manning their arguments. Let's be very clear, and we'll go through more, but he said 24 precision-carved boxes, as we'll see later, and through all these channels, they don't really specify which box. They just described a Serapeum and these boxes as being precision carved. And they make very clear statements later, but just to begin with for now. The issue of polishing, it's no issue at all, very easy to do, very quick as well. But also the issue, are they 100 tons? No, they're not. The heaviest, including the lid, would be 65 tons. But the issue of, again, polishing, lots of very easy to do, easy to experiment with as well, and they don't weigh 100 tons. But the issue is precision carved boxes, and again, don't specify one or the other. They imply that it's all of these boxes, and it is a repeated claim, so it's not just a misunderstood single quote from this particular video. We'll go on further, but again, never specify which box, it's the boxes.
All housed in sunken alcoves like the engines and generators of some vast underground machine. Of this video series, the links are below if you haven't seen them. We've examined some of the evidence that a form of ancient high technology must have been used in several aspects of these boxes' creation. Technology that cannot be attributed to the Dynastic Egyptians, nor achieved via the tools that exist in the archaeological record. From the unrelenting precision and flatness of the interiors of these boxes, to the mirror-like finishing polish of the outsides, to the challenge of quarrying, shipping, and moving such massive objects into these locations, the orthodox explanation that this was all done by a primitive ancient civilization with nothing more than hand tools and human power reveals itself as simply logically unsupportable. Therefore, a new theory is...
I think that's quite clear. A lost technology must have been used because the tools attributed to the ancient Egyptians could not have done this. Therefore, lost high technology, and then you'll see throughout their whole theme, well, there has to be a lost civilization. But unrelenting flatness, unrelenting precision cannot be done with those tools. So it's very clear. I've seen on other channels, I've seen on my channel, people saying, well, you're straw manning their position. I've watched their videos, they never said this. No, they say this all the time and repeated all the time. And I'm not just choosing some old video where they've since retracted or added to their claims. These are the current claims being made by them, the current claims being promoted to sell tours, and we'll tell people things. And before I give you my conclusion and show you the evidence, we've just cleared that up. That's what they say.
Such precision, they're within a 10,000th of an inch of being perfectly flat.
And the precision of the way these were engineered is completely amazing. We're talking perfect 90-degree angles.
To be fair, this video by Bright Insight is a few years old, but in this year and the very end of 2021, still saying this, haven't moved away from it now. Perfect right angles is one feature. Now, very interesting that they use this photo. I'm going to come back to this later because this is one of the proofs that absolutely show that what they're claiming is untrue, because he's going to talk now about machine flatness to 2/10,000ths of an inch. All of this comes from Christopher Dunn, and we'll look directly at what he says and what he's printed, because all of these channels talking about precision, Serapeum, vases and statues are all going back, and Christopher Dunn is the source of all of this, but these claims are still being made. Precision flatness, perfect right angles, and no straw man here.
And we're also talking about being machine cut to within 2/10,000ths of an inch. Think about that for a moment. Phenomenal, because this is opening a whole Pandora's box for showing that, yes, there is lost ancient high technology that was utilized to construct these boxes. Now, something that's enormous extent to create something so big, so heavy, and within such amazing precision, because like I said, within 2/10,000ths of an inch being flat, wow. So when you look at all this, you know there's clear evidence that this was done with some sort of capability or technology that we don't have today, or that was on par of which we do have today.
again, these claims are quite explicit that they're perfectly flat with perfect right angles, and that they're machined, and more importantly, that their level of precision was on par with what we have today. This is, again, repeated, not a straw man. This is what they say. Christopher Dunn implies and then explicitly says the same things in his book, and we'll look at those in a second, but no straw man here.
When you group all of these things together, it creates a huge mood board for a culture that I think predates the first dynasties of Egypt. And the theme of this incredible stoneworkers, I think, is most prominent in the Serapeum. You go underground in Saqqara and you find these absolutely huge granite stone boxes that are made with such precision. It looks like a modern day machine has cut them. But what's even more baffling is that modern day granite workers, they would have no idea on how to construct one of these today from one block of granite. The most that they could do would be make it out of 5 pieces and bolt them together. Whoever made these boxes, they had a knowledge of working with and cutting granite that is better than our best minds today. And that, for me, proves that we shouldn't look at people in the past as being less than us or less developed or less advanced. They beat us in this one. We have to give them.
Once more, it's not a straw man if that's what they actually say. And amongst the claims here, the fact that she states that even modern granite people couldn't explain this or do this. That's absurd. I'll link it in the description. The English version isn't out. Well, Scientists Against Smiths actually went to a granite monument maker, and there's no problem to do that as well. You can get a quote. That's what the work that should have been done. But this idea that we could only bolt them together, it's not absolute nonsense. It's a block of granite that's been hollowed out. That's all that it is. You can see the beautiful sculpture that's been done in recent times and go back through the centuries. Look at sarcophagi such as St. Helena or the tomb of Napoleon. Without doubt, and I'm not even going to show those things, because it's an insult to any serious person's intelligence that you could not hollow out a block of granite when you see this marvelous, beautiful, lifelike detail sculpture. Hollowing out a block, get serious.
Somebody to pay the money to perhaps be buried in here and never was. So they cannot be dated by the writing. Perfect square corners. This is where Chris Dunn went in with a level beveled to 2/10,000ths of an inch. He put his light on it, no light came through. So we say estimated at least a tolerance of 2/10,000ths of an inch, which is not called for today.
And can you compare the
Okay, so now let's look at the actual evidence presented for precision at the Serapeum of Saqqara, and therefore it must be lost ancient high technology because it's not achievable with dynastic era tools. So the claims have been made. It's not a straw man. We've heard those who go on the tours and they're citing, well, experts say this and this is unrelenting flatness, precision, and again, that all of the boxes were, or the majority, they never really make the specific claim what particular box, but okay, it's not a straw man if that's what they actually say. All of those quotes that we heard before, again, still being said, part of this tourism, come on the tour and stone pointing, let's look and say precision, precision. Well, all the evidence comes from here. This is Lost Technologies of Ancient Egypt by Christopher Dunn. He also has websites, links in the description. Not a straw man if that's what he actually says. Also a link to his book. It's available on archive.org. And Chapter 5, Shadows of the Serapeum. So just highlighting the parts, because there's a lot of, the upper spool, and it can't be this. And so it's some very direct claims of precision, but where's the actual important part? So firstly, he says, I visited in 1995 and he had a 6-inch long straight edge, the edge parallel was accurate to within 0.0002 inches or 0.005 millimeters. Okay, now also go on. So we can read through these. Now we'll highlight the important part because what's the actual evidence and the claims being made. Now, important one here is I slid the parallel along the surface both horizontally and vertically. The flatness was similar to precision ground surface plates that are used in manufacturing for the verification of exactly machined parts for tools, gauges, and myriad other products that require extremely accurate surfaces and dimensions. Those familiar with such products and the relationship between gauges and surface plates know that the gauge may show that the stone is flat within a tolerance of the gauge, in this case 0.0002. Well, okay, now links, you can find these. I did a couple of videos earlier, for instance, there's a great video, What the Ancients Knew Japan, and they talk about the origins of precision and how ancient techniques were used by silicon wafer manufacturers, which required tolerances of flatness to within nanometers. And this handworking method was the basis for that. There's also a video, Origins of Precision by Machine Thinking, where he again goes through the origins of precision. So who built the first precision machine? It was done by hand. Who built the first precision flat surface? It was done by hand. So that's an important feature. They did not just pop up out of the ground, and they were handmade. Now, Science of Flatness by Newmind is another one. It goes through the science and the history of flatness. And again, still to this day, precision mirrors, bonding of lenses to to nanometer, a couple of atoms perfection, still done by hand. Granite surface plate, the foundation of metrology. Again, they're a manufacturer, and in that particular video they talk about what is the definition of flatness, what are the grades of flatness, because there are different levels of. So for instance, in the lab, a precision flat plate is measured by another tool, and that basically going back to your Hansen gauges, which are flat to a couple of hydrogen atoms. And also surface plate calibration and conditioning by oxtoolco. They have a lot of videos on that channel especially, but there are a lot of surface plate. People do it for a hobby, and by hand they make precision flat surface plates. Again, where did the first one come from? Had to be made by hand. Where did the first precision measuring instruments come from? They had to be made by hand. It's a chicken or the egg thing. But in this case, clearly the handmade came earlier. So don't get bamboozled or overly impressed by precision flatness and that it's somehow some advanced technology. It just isn't. I'll put the playlist in the description. I made a bunch of surface plates using Dynastic era tools, sand and stone. Not only is it possible, it's not very hard and not particularly time consuming either. Prior to that, before I made and ground precision plates, I brought it to a honed surface and multiple experiments on different types of surfaces in black granite. And so we have the tool marks and how to grind them down and bring them to a honed or a flat surface. It would be as well, by proper definition, not a precision flat surface, but I couldn't get light underneath my straight edge in those. Again, these can be easily repeated. This is exactly the type of experiments that those who are for 2 decades now have been talking about the Serapeum. So this is not like yesterday. They've had 2 decades to do this, and it's crickets. There's nothing there. Still saying the same old things. Now, in those same experiments, I show not only on a horizontal surface but also how that method works wonderfully on a vertical surface. You can polish off a wall even with a heavy stone, because the slurry, the mud, the abrasive that you're using, if you develop your technique and get I learned, well, if it's too dry or too wet, can be a big problem, because it actually suction cups so hard that I had to smash it off with a wooden mallet to separate it. But if you get it right, the weight of the heavy polishing stone is actually supported by the mud, and you can be there all day with no effort at all to move your stone around. And then I say, well, they're small scale experiments. Well, I used a small polishing stone on a much larger surface, so you can just take that out. So I have a large stone on the side of a Serapeum wall, or I have a very small stone on the side of my plates. So this thing of, well, it hasn't been done to scale, it doesn't have to be. You can make the stone smaller over a larger surface and you get the same results. It's a matter of technique, not of any mystery or whatever. And again, these are, through experimentation and mucking around, I, in a short time was picking up little tricks and hints and learned a lot by putting my hands on, not pointing at stone, not just by linking, here's a paper or something. This is the type of work you can literally do over an hour or two and for a few dollars investment. And it is exactly the type of work which those talking about precision have not done. So that same method, so there we see one of the unfinished parts of one of the Serapeum boxes using this primitive dynastic technique and materials. Okay, yeah, give me permission. I'll go and finish these things off. It's easy to do it and doesn't take a long time. So when we come back to, this is from Christopher Dunn's article. You can see his link there. Now, his work has been cited by others because he's an engineer, and sounds great. It's all very sciencey. And so, for instance, Mechanical Engineering in Ancient Egypt, Part 7, Stone Cutting by Galal Ali Hassan, he cites Christopher Dunn there. And we have, basically, there are 20 boxes. The surface was exactly flat as measured by a straight edge to an accuracy of 0.005 millimeters. All corners of the base are filleted. We'll come to that in a moment. The inside surfaces are flat vertically and horizontally. The surfaces are square and parallel to each other. Inside surfaces have a high degree of accuracy compared to the surfaces of plates in modern manufacturing facilities. Exclamation point. Okay, well, firstly, are they? And we're going to look at that. But even if they were, and they are not, that's not a difficult thing to do. Higher levels of technology were used by the ancient Egyptians. Well, that could be the case, but let's go back to those original claims that it cannot be done with the tools in the archaeological record. This is not a straw man. Christopher Dunn and all the others say that. That's it is not a straw man if that's what they actually repeatedly say. It's not a slip of the tongue or something that they've since recanted on and said, okay, yeah, true. No, these are still fundamental claims to the whole lost ancient high technology industry. Claims of the schist disc is precision. It's a dog's breakfast. That vases are perfectly symmetrical and precision precise. No, they are not. Absolutely not. You can see like that. But okay, let's keep going. Let's not get into that. Now, firstly, there is a small, in his book, Christopher Dunn does give the heights of the boxes, and so it's 11 feet there. It's actually 7 to 8 feet, and in the book he's correct in there, so that's just to point that out, not a big issue. Also at the lid, at the top, he says the lid was pushed to the back of a box, allowing inspection of part of the top surface. Well, there are only 3 or 4 boxes where the lid is pushed back. Most of them are pulled forward. But the individual box is not identified, but he highlights these 4 spots where a 6-inch straight edge was, and he found precision flatness. This can be achieved very easily, no experience at all, nothing but sand and stone. I was able to do the same and have no light shine underneath a straight edge either. So that it's a few spots there, that's no evidence of precision at all. And as he says, further study needs to be done. Well, it hasn't been done. Okay, but well, actually, it hasn't. We'll get to that's what we're coming to. Are they precise? Not just we just have to be clear. What are their claims? Not I always get this. Well, you're straw manning. No, not at all. So again, sources, links in the description, page 128 and 129. So, for instance, there on the page 128, he has a letter from Eric Leifer, pardon the pronunciation, from Truestone Corporation, and Mr. Leiter goes on to say that Truestone did not have the equipment to create this box, and that they would have to create it in 5 pieces and ship it to its destination and bolt it on site. We've seen that was repeated earlier amongst those tour quotes as well. We'll see others. This is just repeated over and over. Well, firstly, Truestone makes surface plates and similar items that basically fit on a desktop. They're not a monument manufacturer. They make small pieces. They don't make something as large as this. So, of course, they don't. This is a massive item. They're making tabletop metrological products, not giant. So, I can't go to, if I've got a mining company and I've got one of those big excavators, and then go down to the local mechanic and say, the lawnmower mechanic, and say, can you, fix this for me? You're a mechanic. He goes, well, I can't do it. I'm not set up for it. I don't have the equipment to do it. So this is very tricky. This is just, very bad logic as well. But why didn't he contact a large granite manufacturer? It's still not released in English, but the Scientists Against Smith team did contact a large granite manufacturer who make monumental items, and they had no problem. Yes, they gave them a quote, no problem. So this thing that it can't be done, it has to be no, absolute rubbish. But even if it was, a level of precision, flatness and perfect right angles would first have to be established. And have they? Well, what's the evidence? So this is essentially the best evidence presented by Christopher Dunn. We have these terrible photos. If this was presented, as in any engineering, any sort of serious, even the local machine shop, if you were to go up and say, here's my evidence, you'd be laughed out of the shop that this is any sort of evidence of precision at all. Grainy photos from a distance, and this is useless, worthless, and anyone who's worth their salt in this type of any trade would spot this straight away. I'm not an engineer. I never had a NASA contract, and I would be embarrassed to present this and say that this is evidence of anything. But let's keep going. 2001, that was from 2001, those photos. So in 1995 we have that illustration where there are 4 little points of 6 inch. So we keep going further, and now here's an important one. So I've put together, as seen in plate 12, the granite surface was finely tooled to a mirror finish. The reflection off the surface indicates an optical accuracy. There are no distortions or aberrations in the reflected image. This is just untrue, and we'll go further because, again, in that playlist, I was able to, firstly, let's look at what plate 12 is. That's those photos, and there are no aberrations or distortions. Now, do I have to pull out okay, that's aberrations and distortions. It is there. Now, even we'll look at this better, but again, what he's saying is not. It is simply untrue by the evidence presented. Let's keep going. Okay, then he comes, say, in 2001, he had a longer, straighter jet. It was those pictures that we saw. But okay, now let's zoom in on that. The conditions I witnessed amongst the boxes indicate a high level of technology. Though Truestone, the small metrological granite making company, did not have the capabilities to produce such an item. If a manufacturer was under contract from NASA or the Department of Defense to create one identical to those at the Serapeum, with no expenses spared to do the job, they would certainly find a way. Yet the discussion amongst their engineers would go beyond that what was currently available to them for tools, and they would consider tools that they would need to build specially in order to fulfill the contract. BS, absolute BS. You'd have to search miles and miles to find such nonsense such as that, because, well, firstly, again, he's saying he admits that no accurate measurements have been made, and then he's now saying that but it would require NASA or Department of Defense levels of budgets and technical ability to do it. Absolute nonsense. Cringe-worthy to the extreme. Actually says this. Embarrassing. Alright, because it's a box and, well, precision surfaces anyway. So then he goes in his conclusions. Here's his conclusions highlighted, and let's go back to conclusions. So at the very bottom, to arrive at this level of precision, the manufacturers would have needed metrology instruments. None have been found in the archaeological record. So no precise measurements have been made. Just holding up a square, a straight edge, and a square. But now, in the conclusions, he's saying that metrology instruments would have been needed. But earlier, and in the same chapter, if the gauge is moved 6 inches along the stone surface and the same condition, it cannot be claimed with certainty that the stone is the same tolerance unless a plate has been inspected by other means and is calibrated to a known standard. So he's again where there's no evidence. Okay, let's put these are the claims that have actually been made, and it contradicts itself in there. You haven't established precision, and you're saying that it takes NASA and Department of Defense with an unlimited budget to do it, and saying that precision is there when it's simply, well, you haven't proven it. Let's go further. So let's look at the actual evidence. Let's look what it's provided. So we've seen Christopher Dunn's work, a couple of dodgy photos, trust me, a lot of blah, blah, blah about Apis bulls and so forth. But, well, I'll show you this here. This is by the YouTube channel Ahmad Adli. He's promoting precision lost high technology, even though there's a language barrier in there. It's not in English. It's quite like through his diagrams, illustrations, he's repeating it'd have to be made by bolting the pieces together, precision. Okay, now he begins with here. All right, so okay, we see Christopher Dunn, and we also have Gregor Spory. Why have I chosen these? Because Ahmad Adli and Gregor Spory have actually provided some, unlike this, dodgy, unfocused photos from a distance doesn't prove anything. And again, that anyone would present that is cringe. But Gregor Spory, amongst the photos provided, he does have 3, which give us some indication of the claims made in regards to precision. We have that one, we have that one, and we have this one. All right, and he also makes certain claims. Now, firstly, each box is different. On the outside, the containers are anything but precisely finished. They are teeming with slanted edges, crooked surfaces, and dents, etc. We'll see the fact, again, the outside of those boxes are rough as. Now, even by primitive, basic tooling standards, they're nowhere near precise, and anyone who says otherwise has got rocks in their head. And for the most part, the people who promote lost high technology admit the bleeding obvious that those boxes are not great on the outside. So exteriors are poorly made, primitive handworking standards, not even high quality. Now, the only one that is relatively decent on the outside in terms of being sort of square and rectangular instead of having big divots and curves and bulges and that is number 2, the box in niche number 2. It is probably the largest of the boxes, and it also has high quality hieroglyphs. So they'll show 17, which has these lower quality hieroglyphs, and well, we can't, but just up the tunnel there are beautiful hieroglyphs, very nicely carved in there as well. So I'm not going to cover the argument of the hieroglyphs and the dating. Just remember that there are nice hieroglyphs in there, and so good for the goose, good for the gander. Okay, why on the hub? And this is an important point, because all of the claims go to the inside of the boxes. Now, why on the other hand was the invisible interior of the containers perfectly finished? Again, perfectly. The bottoms and the sides and insides of the lids are ground absolutely flat. We've established he's talking about surface plate levels of quality, of precision. The containers can be closed airtight. The angles of the inner corners and edges are exactly 90 degrees. This is flatness and 90-degree corners are the fundamental underpinnings of this argument of precision. And the radius of the inner corners is a minimum of 4 to 5 millimeters. Okay, we'll come back to those. Now, we have this photo. This is box number 23. We're going to cover that one because that's the granddaddy of them all. That's the holy grail in the argument of precision and the Serapeum boxes. But here's one of the other photos by Gregor Spori. Now, again, we're not talking like decent work. Christopher Dunn and all those others, precision. We know what precision means because we've established granite or surface plates, whether they're metal or made of granite. That's the level of precision that's been claimed, and there is a standard for that. There are industry standards for that. But what is this picture telling us? Well, it's telling us a lot. Now, flat surface, okay, there's a gap there. We can see a gap. We go, well, that's a tiny little... Yes, it is a tiny little gap, but by basic stone working standards, by rubbing the stone together, that's not good. Again, you can repeat those experiments I linked earlier, mentioned earlier. That's a fault. I did a lot better with no experience and just putting in a little bit of effort. It's not hard, doesn't take long. So, firstly, Gregor Spori does not tell us which box this is, but this alone is enough to, well, again, he's claiming precision based off Christopher Dunn. So firstly, the inside wall there is not flat, and that's in the best point. Like, we have one photo or one particular spot. I would assume he's cherry picked it because, and that's the best area we've got. Okay, so firstly, that's not flat. This bottom edge is clearly not flat. Not even by holding a straight edge against it, I can see those undulations by the eye, even without the aid of a straight edge. You can see the undulations in the bottom, so the floor is clearly not flat either. It's not level. Now maybe that's because the floor underneath has been something. So maybe, yeah. Well, okay, but okay. So first, all right. But now here's the key point. Now he's saying 90 degrees. This is the evidence he's presenting. Okay, let's zoom in on that. The gauge, it doesn't even this tool is not a precision tool, but an imprecise tool such as this, or even that straight edge, which we can see against the wall, which is probably not been calibrated to the highest level standard of straight edge. But even these imprecise tools prove the lack of precision here. You don't need precision items, instruments, to find imprecision. Imprecise items can show imprecision. To find precision, you need precise items and instruments, but you can prove imprecision very easily by eye or with a simple tool such as this. So, firstly, that doesn't match up. We can see the gauge there. It's 98 degrees. It's not 90 degrees, perfect 90 degrees. No, it's 89. So this is the best evidence. Find the sweet spot, and it only proves imprecision. So if you want to get into lost high technology, and do some tours or when you visit these sites, do not ever take high resolution photos with an instrument there. That's not how you do it. You have to do it like Christopher Dunn and all those other channels. You walk and you say precision, unrelenting precision. It can't be repeated. How did they? Oh, it's precise. It's exactly 90 degrees, and you never show anything. You just sort of have this camera moving around. You use a lot of emotive language. Never ever, if you want to get into it, if you want to become one of these fellas, use a tool and high resolution photos. Don't ever. It's terrible. Okay, so it's not 90 degrees. The claim is that bottom sides, insides of the lids are ground absolutely flat by his own evidence. No. It's not, and we'll go through each box individually as well. So this is not just the end of it, okay? So it's not absolute, it's not precise. Absolutely not. The corners can be closed airtight. Really? Okay, we'll take your word for it, I guess, because let's not be sticks in the mud, but based on the fact that, either you're not really telling, you're not being honest with yourself or not being honest with other people, but Gregor, you can't read it. You can't use a tool. So, okay, there's no evidence for being closed airtight. When the angles of the inner corners and edges are exactly 90 degrees. No, they're not. Your own friggin' photo shows it. Is this like some sort of mind virus? When you get into it, you just lose your senses and critical thinking? Or is it a deception? Look, I think it's a little bit of both for some cases. In some cases, I have no doubt in my mind that it's a deception, because even when presented with evidence, they refuse to acknowledge its existence, blocking, shadow banning, that type of stuff. So, no, okay. Now we'll come back to, they'll often say, well, the tools in the archaeological can't achieve these things. They had squares back in the corner and getting 89 degrees. Okay, yeah, okay, we could do that, no problem. That's one of the things that Christopher Dunn mentions in his book. The tools in the even the best craftsmen with tools such as these could not have achieved that level of perfection. To that I say absolute nonsense, because what is the evidence? Well, let's keep going. They also talk about the radius of inner corners being 4 or 5 millimeters. So in some boxes they are, and we'll get, this is another point, we'll show this, but Gregor also shows him holding this square in the corner. Now that's a radius of much less than 4 or 5 millimeters. You'll see not just from box to box, but in the same box, you'll see corners that are cut much nicer, and you'll see ones that have rounded corners. And even where the rounded corners are, they're skew. If they're all over the place, a few inches apart, move up or down, and they change. Okay, now for instance, this is number 8. Now again, we can see at the bottom it's nice, it's sharper. At the top, it's more rounded. This is a common happening. Now, this is why, again, in the Lost Ancient High Technology videos, they'll sort of move around, but they won't ever give you, a detailed view. Slowly move along each corner and examine it in detail, because when you do, this whole thing of they're all filleted to this radius, it just falls apart. It is plainly untrue, demonstrably untrue. Okay, back to Gregor Spory. Also, now you can see there in that particular corner, again we have that curved corner, but again it's very imprecise. It's not very nice at all, and we'll come back to that one. I believe that might be box 16, and that one has been measured. So, what the hell is going on here? Your own photos contradict yourself. Your own statements, such as what Christopher Dunn makes in his book, contradict themselves. So, okay, Gregor Spory, he's actually proven imprecision. Great. Now, point 10, he says, now, even today, working granite is an enormous technological challenge that can only be mastered by special machines. You're an idiot to say it. That is so ridiculous that it's not only it's contemptuous. You can see beautiful works of granite from the previous century, the century before that, going back in time, where you have work all over there. It's an insult to just the intelligence of any normal you have no, you can't say this is stupid, it's ridiculously untrue. Shame on you for making such a claim and then promoting it to other person. There is no way in the world anyone can make this claim with a serious face or say, well, I know what I'm talking about. So, and that's what we've seen earlier in those early, even modern granite manufacturers, can't explain this. Rubbish. Absolute. Not only is it wrong, it's obscenely incorrect. Shameful. Okay, so this is a Gregor spot. I want to believe. He wants to believe so much that he can't even see his own evidence that he's looked at. All right, next bit. Ahmad Adli. Link will be in a description. I believe the translation is Serapeum Coffins to the title of the video. And here we see the box in niche number.
وبيقيس لحد 50 متر. بيطلع لك المسافة على الشاشة. بنسبة خطأ 1 ملي لكل 50 متر. الجهاز الثاني زاوية رقمية لقياس الزوايا وبتقيس لحد 180 درجة. أنا حبيت أستعمل جهاز رقمي عشان يكون نتائجه أدق، والنتيجة اللي هتطلع هنشوفها على طول، يعني ما فيهاش أي تلفيق. ده التابوت اللي هنقيسه. الدنيا مظلمة شوية في السرابيوم معلش، لكن إحنا هنستعمل نموذج ثلاثي الأبعاد عشان أشرح عليه أنا عملت إيه بالظبط. حطيت قاعدة الجهاز على طرف طول الصندوق من اليمين. لما قست طول الصندوق طلع 3.091 متر. لما قسنا بقى طول من الناحية الشمال طلع برضو 3.091 متر. كررنا نفس العملية عشان نقيس عرض الصندوق. طلع الطول هنا 1.495 متر، وكررنا نفس العملية من الناحية الشمال طلع برضو 1.495 متر. هنقيس كمان الزاوية الداخلية. ادت الزاوية 90.0. خد بالك الزاوية مش 90، مش 90.1، لا دي 90.0.
Here we see the box in niche number 24. He shows a tool that he's going to use, a Bosch Professional GLM50C. I pulled up the technical data from there, so we have a accuracy, typical, and the measuring accuracy of the inclinometer. I'll explain what I mean by those in a moment, but as a rangefinder, as a measuring tool, measurement accuracy typical plus or minus 1.5 millimeters. Plus use dependent deviation. Now, that's if it's out of the box, just being calibrated. Now, let's assume it was. That's at its peak is plus or minus 1.5 millimeters. So this is not an item to measure with precision. To measure, you'd be better off with a tape measure to do this. So this is not a good. A tape measure would be better. Now, the inclinometer has a plus or minus of 0.2 degrees. Very important point. So he's established that we're looking at box number 24, and then he uses these animations. And again, box number 24, we go back to for a moment. That is one of the rare few boxes where the lid has been pushed back. You'll see with all the others that the lid is being pulled forward. Okay. Lid has been pushed back. Even his animation shows it. We can see the niche where it's put in. So, okay, so he does his first measurement, and I'm going to use millimeters. 3,091 millimeters, that length, and the next length is 3,091 millimeters. Now, in his video, I'll play the little portion in there. It's basically some little snippets of video. If you want to measure this and demonstrate it, you really should have a decent bit of video, have it held back, and sort of be clear on where you are and what you're doing. But okay, so he takes his first measurement, 3,091 millimeters. Second measurement, 3,091 millimeters. Now, if we go back to the first one, now you can clearly see the side of the wall there, and you can see he's holding in his left hand. That's his left thumb. Now, I've adjusted the contrast here because you might not pick it up, but you can see again, it's his left thumb. So he's holding it in the same hand. So there we have the two measurements that he's provided. Well, we know it's that corner. It's clear. Alright, so the second one was in that corner. Now, there on the right hand side, you can see that there's, I don't know, what is it, 4 inches difference between the wall and where he's held the instrument. And by his animation, his illustration there, he's suggesting that it's the same position on the opposite side, and yet he's holding it with his left hand. I find that curious because if his hand was bent and he sort of twisted it to get it in there so that his wrist, like how did he fit his wrist in there? This is my first red flag for this particular one. But let's take his measurements at face value. But I'm not happy. I'm questioning. All right, now, so we have the measurements, and we have the inclinometer, which shows the angle at which it had been held. Ideally, he should have tilted it up a little bit so that it's at 0 degrees or as close as is available as he could do by holding it. But they're both at the same angle. Now, because it's at an angle, the distance is going to be longer. All right, so that's why these type of instruments need an inclinometer, because you want to have it equal. All right, so parallel walls. Ideally, the instrument should be held at 0 degrees. The difference is very small, 0.2 degrees, and the typical accuracy of the inclinometer is 0.20 degrees. Okay, this is not a bad result. Again, it should be held closer to 0 degrees or horizontal, but since they're both almost identical angles, not a bad result. But we go back to the instrument he's using. Okay, now, in his video, he shows this, and he says 0.002%. I tried to translate that. I got something like privatization ratio in the translator. So I'm assuming that he's saying that this instrument is accurate to that level. But if you look up the technical data, no, it's not. That's just, you can't say it's a percentage accurate. It's just not the way that these instruments work. There's a up plus or minus 1.5 millimeter accuracy and up to 0.2 degrees. So, okay, so it's close. He's held a reasonably close, similar angle. But this device is not meant for precision measurements. This is not all. Please hold on. We have to look at the claims have been made. It's maybe a little bit boring, but you have to unpack this stuff. It's not as I can point at a stone and say precision. Well, what does that actually mean? So he's taken the length of it. Now he's going to take the width of those boxes, and he's going to claim that they're 1,495 millimeters. So there we see the first shot, 1,495 millimeters, and it's held at an angle of 3.3 degrees from horizontal. The video indicates that it was taken here because this is the first shot, and that's where he shows the first measurement. But if we go back, now you can see just beneath him, we can see the wall there. That's the wall of the box. So he's held it up against the corner. Okay, that's because of the lid and the way he's holding it now still in his right hand. Okay, the only place that he could have taken that would have to have been in this corner. Just impossible to do otherwise. He's holding it with his right hand, and there it is. All right, so that's where it has to be. Maybe you think I'm nitpicking, but this is an important point. This is niche 24. So he could have taken that measurement there as he shows, or he had to have taken it there, but then we have the lid, and so now you can't do that. So the next image, the next measurement, that's the only place this measurement could have been taken, and we'll come back to this later because he also takes angle measurement, and it has to be again in that same corner. So the second measurement, 1,495 degrees, sorry, that's the first one. The second one is 1,495 millimeters at 1.1 degrees, plus or minus, let's not fiddle, it's from horizontal. And it would have to have been there in that corner, and ideally it should have been held up against the side of the box, but we can't tell that from the images and video he provides. Now, again, he's holding it in the same hand, but maybe he was holding it up above his head. So that's possible. But that's not the issue. What the issue is the inclinometer, 3.3 and 1.1 degrees. Pythagorean triangle. So what he's measured is the hypotenuse of a triangle, not the horizontal. So if it's 3.3 degrees, it's going to have to be 1,492.5 millimeters. And if it's at 1.1 degrees, it's going to have to be 1494.7 millimeters. So again, the instrument's not going to measure to that precision, but we have a level of accuracy which it can get to. And okay, so that difference of 2.2 millimeters is, well, it's not good. If you know, basically it's okay. Now there is one explanation for this. There is one explanation for that. So it's within the 3 millimeter plus or minus accuracy of a device. Okay, so it could be precise, but maybe the error in the measuring instrument was exactly the amount they needed to make these boxes precise to a modern standard. This guy's a way. There's only a way to know for sure, and actually there is, because he provides it in the next piece, where he measures the corner at 90 degrees. And again, it has to be this corner that we showed earlier, cannot be any other. Okay, so he provides a screenshot and a snippet of video, and even in the video it's a snippet. We don't see the whole instrument. It's sort of like, there it is, click, done, okay, away we go. Not the way to do it, but again, let's confirm that that's the corner, because we go back to his earlier image of taking the length measurement. Hold that up. Okay, fingerprint test. It is there. That is. Okay, no argument about it. Now, let's look. There's a big gap here. These are millimeters, so we're looking about 2 up to maybe 3 millimeters in parts, where the straight edge isn't making contact. The end, because it's rounded, it's making contact here, but it's not making contact along that portion. Okay. Right, very important point, because it's not flat, it's not precise. Okay, so that clearly undulating surface, if it was precise distance to the other side, then the other side would have to have that not only repeated but mirrored, so that it's equal. Alright, so firstly, precision flatness, let's remove that, it's not there. And even the 90 degrees I'm very suspicious about, because digital angle finder by TacLife MDA01. Alright, now there's a YouTube video, TacLife digital measurement tools review, where the guy goes through various tools by the company and he shows that particular instrument. Now there's a button there on there, which is the zero function. Okay, now for instance, I could open it to a certain angle because I want to set it there, and then I click 0 and it's going to reset the gauge to 0. So then it's going to measure how far I open it from that point. So I could open it to 30 degrees, then I click 0 and it's going to go back to 0, and then I open it another 5 and it will only show 5. So okay, that's how these tools can be used as well. And I think that this is what, so again, can you spot the issue? Giant gap. Even with the eye to see this, it's like, okay, you're talking precision. That side's, again, it's not flat either. You can see the filleted radius corner is quite rough by that standard. Okay, now we have the still shot of his video compared to the still shot he provides. So we have on the left, he's measuring the 90 degree corner right up near the top, and then he's taking it a few inches down. Now, firstly, the difference in quality between, so you can see his straight edge there are clear. You can see where it makes contact, and you can see where the gaps are. All right. So again, you don't need to have a PhD in rocket science and have worked with NASA for 20 years to work this stuff out. It is really, it's the sort of stuff you would learn in high school shop class, industrial arts, whatever the name is in your particular country. But like, how did he? Okay, so those two. Okay, it's not flat. Now, even the 90 degrees, he never shows like what's going on at the edge. I'm let's take it at face value, but firstly, this is a very bad way to present the evidence, and the differences between the top corner and moving down a little bit, I think he's used the zero function. I'm going to say it. I think he's fiddled with the data, but I could be wrong on that. I could be wrong, but is there a better way to do it? Well, let's look at more boxes. But this alone proves it's not precision flat. And if we go back now, okay, so we go back here. We see where he took the measurement of 3,091 millimeters. We know that that's where it's taken. We can see the gap. Okay, so where he's held that tool, indicate that where the blue arrow points is where the tool was being held against. Again, that's a very unflat surface, clearly visibly unflat, and 2 to 3 millimeters, as can be seen by the straight edge gauge. Like it's in terms of when it comes to precision, this is a giant gap. This is the Grand Canyon. If you're talking about it, any shop is going to it's only 2 mils out, 3 mils out, mate. I mean, you'd be run out of business if you're saying that type of stuff. All right. So this he's proven here, and this alone, that the measurements don't work. Okay, this is not precise. This is actually proven that it's not flat, not precise as well. You don't need a precision instrument to find imprecision. No. Okay, just no. Okay, all right. So number 24. Again, you can just say, oh, well, it's a different corner hole. You can see the marks in the stone. We know exactly where it is. Big problem. So barely a couple of inches apart, and the precision is amazing. It's perfect, unrelenting precision, but it's not. Clearly not. Okay, so he's not pissing on your boots, but he's going to tell you it's rain. It's not piss that's hitting your boots. So okay, again, maybe he's not fibbing. Maybe he just doesn't he's completely useless with how to use a tool. Could be. There's a lot of people out there like that. All right, but what he's actually done is with this is conclusively he's proven it's not flat, just like Gregor did. So again, kids, if you want to get into lost ancient high technology, no high resolution photos, no instruments. Don't ever compare one corner and then go down a few inches and compare the same corner and look at it in detail, because what you'll see, that's not how lost ancient high technology is done. Fuzzy photos at a distance, scan the camera across quickly. Precision, just repeat precision, Christopher Dunn, precision a lot. Never present any evidence. Okay, that's how you destroy your lost ancient high technology career. Okay, round of applause to Gregor Spory and Ahmad Adli, because they've proven imprecision in the boxes, and especially to Ahmad Adli because he's proven that the box in niche 24 is imprecise. Proven. Okay, now the curious thing is that these Lost Ancient High Technology channels will show you a couple pictures of the Izida project. Izida project is very alternative, but they're also very diligent and detail based. So you can argue with their conclusions, but you can't argue with their work ethic. All right. So now we go to, in 2012, they visited the Serapeum and they took good pictures across all of the boxes, including this one, which has beautiful hieroglyphs on it, by the way. The tool that they had was this square, and again, this hasn't been calibrated to super high precision, but you don't need super precise tools to measure imprecision. Any square or straight edge that you find at your hardware is made to a standard already. They're not rough. Even the cheapest square or tool you get from the hardware is already at a reasonably high level of precision to begin with out of the factory. But you don't need these. These are clear. Okay, box number 2, the inside's clearly not precise. Okay, we can eliminate that one. Okay, now number 1, that's the lid, which is next to the door. again, just you just look at it, okay, that's not precise, no one's going to make that claim. Then we have another lid, which is almost certainly goes to box number 26, but again, no, that's not, you can rule that out immediately. When we come to box 26, here's some pictures of it before the wooden flooring was introduced. And again, this is described as one of the precision boxes being 100 tons. Not one single of the boxes combined, lid and box, is 100 tons. 65 tons, maybe pushing 70 combined at the most. The heaviest individual item would be no more than 45 tons. Okay, but you can see a picture now. Again, this is like in the dictionary, this would be the picture of imprecise, and this again is called one of the precision boxes. Okay, absolutely not limited. That's gone. That's out. Now, box 3, 4, and 5 are of different styles, and Brian Foster has claimed one of them to be 100 tons in a precision box. No one else does. He's way off with the loons, that fella. But 3, 4, and 5 are different styles, and again, no one's claimed, no one's said it, but 3, 4, and 5 are precise. Okay, so we limit those out. Now, however, in those tours and in the videos, you'll see all the precision boxes. They're saying there are 20 boxes and they're precision carved. No. Okay, so 3, 4, and 5 we can remove as well. We get to sarcophagus number 6. External and internal surface are processed, no polishing. Again, you can see from, well, every single box on the outside is rough. Okay, there's not one that is anything close to precision or high level quality, even by hand working standards. We can get a view inside. Again, now for instance, okay, I mean, that's self-explanatory. Now, can we get a good view inside? Not really. But even just by eyeballing it, from what we see here, no, not really. But we can see the underside of a lid, and it is clearly imprecise, not flat, not polished. And again, we can see the tool marks there. So we can eliminate number 6. Number 6 is a red arrow now, red cross. Absolutely not precise. Number 7, grey granite, external, internal surfaces are processed, no polishing. Okay. Well, there's no photos, there on the inside. I probably should have marked out white, but again, no evidence presented. And from what we've seen, okay, I should have marked out white. I'll point that out at the end. Okay. Then I'm going to skip number. We're going to come back to these. We're going to do every single one. I'm going to skip number 8 and go straight to number 11. We see pictures of it again. You can see the outside is just not any sort of way near precise. We have some photos there of the inside, but they're not very telling. Those who make the claims, they're never specific about their box for their first, which one they're talking about. So we're going to put this one as a white arrow. I cannot say that it's imprecise. I cannot say, that it's imprecise. It's hard, it's still. If I had to bet, I would bet everything that it's going to be just like all the others, but hasn't been measured either. So it is not, and it is not for someone to say. If you say it's precise, you must. I can't point at a dog turd and say it's precise, and that you have to go and measure the dog turd and get your hands dirty to do it. No, you made the claim, you have to do it. Precision is extraordinary. Imprecision is very ordinary. So. No evidence. What can be presented without evidence can be dismissed without evidence. I'm going to skip 12, and for good reason, because we're going to come back to it and go to 13. And the same thing. No evidence has been provided, but I can't provide any direct evidence that the inside is imprecise either. And that's the same with number 14. No evidence for precision in 14 has been presented, and same with 15. Again, just no. Okay, so 13, 14, 15. No evidence. No need to. You must show precision. It's not up to someone else to show imprecision. So, no evidence, no claim. Okay, now we get to number 16. Is it a project now? External surface is polished, the inner part is not available. They did show one particular photo in there, and so even like with just by taking making a straight line, even by eyeballing it, I would say, I don't know, if I had to bet, I would bet against. But luckily for us, the Scientists Against Smith, they've published the Russian language version one, and the English will be available soon. But they did go and they did take a proper measuring tool, and not only that, they highlight what is the margins of error, what's the accuracy level. Okay, inside corner 90.08 degrees within the margin of accuracy, 91.4 degrees. So notice they take it at one point underneath the lid, and then they go to the same side a little bit further down. So from one point to another, it goes from 90.8 to 91.4. This is not a super accurate metrological precision, NASA level, but imprecise tools can show imprecision, and that difference proves that this lid is not very key. So we take another measurement towards the front of the lid, 90.2, 91.3. Okay, now here's the important one. So we see taking a measurement from the top of the corner, 90.95 degrees, and we go to the bottom and it's 91.45 degrees. That's a different angle. So it's not, okay, so even though that's within the accuracy of the tool, this is proven, okay, that alone proves it. Now, oops, I should have changed that. It's a 0.5 degree difference, not 1.5 degree, a 0.5 degree difference between the top and the bottom. Okay, so I go to the other corner, 90.85, take it at the bottom, 91.3. Again, within the accuracy of the tool, and this is what you'll see, which showed earlier, the visible inconsistencies between the top and the bottom of the corners, whether it's the filleting and the angles, is obvious to the eye in most cases. So you always should do it, unlike Ahmad Adli, which sort of just took that one corner. You've got to do it in multiple corners and on multiple positions along the length, and every time someone who's done it, and this is not the only example, proven in precision. An accurate, precise tool would hit the bullseye all the time. A precise tool that's inaccurate, that's not calibrated or mounted properly, they're going to be bundled, they're going to be bunched together. So they're both precise, but one is a little bit inaccurate. When you have all over the place, that is the definition of imprecision, and this is what defines a Serapeum, and a Serapeum is not precise. Now, when it comes to flatness, the angle should be 180 degrees, and it is not. And again, the visible imprecision in the distortion of the reflections, we'll see more of that later, is all that you need to do. You don't even really need that tool to do that. You can eyeball most of this. So underside not flat, underside not flat, the walls are not flat. Now in that, you can even see again, to the eye with just the cheapest straight edge, just stretch a bit of string across, and that would be enough to show that these are not. Now it's a bit hard to make out 180.6 on that wall. The walls are not flat, and I'll link to their video in the description as well. But they also film and they show and they move along the same corner. So you see the top of a corner, and there you see the bottom of a corner. Here you can see where it's quite sharp, and when it gets to the bottom, it's quite rounded, just like we saw earlier. Inconsistency is proof of lack of precision. Differences in angles is proof of lack of precision. Lack of flatness is proof of lack of precision. And in most cases as well, whoever built them, even by hand working standards, did not go to extraordinary efforts to get it, to make it, high quality as well. Same with the sarcophagus in the Great Pyramid. The imperfections and the lack of detail, the lack of finishing is evident when you see those images close up. So whether it's the sarcophagus in the Great Pyramid, that's absolutely not machined and that's absolutely not precise. And you can use these same methods to, shown here, to look at other objects as well. Grainy photos, say precise, reference Christopher Dunn. It's not going to wash anymore. Okay, 16, definitely not. Number 17, the Serapeum. Is it a project visited in 2012? And just with their straight edge, sort of their square. Now, again, this is quoted as, by the Kemet Institute as one of the examples of precision. Okay, they specify box 17. Oh, okay, it's not looking good. Now, you don't need super precise materials, instruments to detect imprecision. Now, for instance, the reflections there's distortions. Now, anyone who's into their car shows or whatever, to see how good the quality of the panel is. Okay, see this distortion. Okay, panel work was done here, body work, and it wasn't fixed. wasn't done to it. Like, that's how you can find. You don't need high level technology to do that. The eye can detect imprecision. For instance, here, when just outside the shops, you look at, during the day, you'd see this shiny bit of, it's milled, that's a beautiful piece of metal there, it's precision flat. But when you see the reflections are a telltale giveaway. The reflections of light. Light and shadow can be used to trick people, but light and shadow never lies. And if you look at it properly, it gives it away. So just with simple observation techniques, you can eliminate, and we will, precision in these type of boxes. All right. Now, not only that, this actual photo is used by, I've seen it all out by lost ancient high technologists, lost civilization, as proof of precision. This photo, have they lost? Like, I don't know if you've seen those old memes, meth, not even once. Lost ancient high technology, not even once. Now, whether it's a deliberate deception or whether it's a belief of theirs, anyone who seems to get involved with that loses the basic ability to see. It's like they become blind. They lose critical thinking. All right. So again, this is presented as evidence. All right. Now even in that corner, now 90 degrees. If I had a smaller square because of those variations in the surface, well, okay, now it's not going to be 90 degrees. All right. So firstly, measuring angles as well, even with a 12-inch calibrated square, it's where is contact being made. With a different square, you'll get a different result. So, no, all right. But, okay, another clear example. All right, now even there, obviously flat. It's glaring. And so, 2012, is it a project visited? And then they went back in 2013 with a better instrument to measure angles, and they measured 17. That's the one with the dodgy hieroglyphs. Of course, let's not mention the lovely hieroglyphs in number 2, but okay, even the tool, we can find it's not a perfect tool, but even an imprecise tool, if we have the margin with the accuracy, we can determine, you can prove precision does not exist with an imprecise tool. Now again, it's not flat. Now even those angles, and that's within the margins of error of the accuracy of that particular tool. And let's go inside corners, 91.5, elsewhere 91.4. Very close to each other, but they're not 90. Okay, that's the claim now, 92.4. There is a lack of proven. Okay, so we can eliminate number 17. That is not precise. Now, from 18 up till 22, we don't have any good demonstration of there. So, no evidence, no claim can be justified of precision without any evidence. So, no precision there unless there is, it's okay. No. All right. So it's not looking good. First, there's a lot of undeniable proof that they're imprecise, and those others, there's no evidence to say they are precise. So it doesn't count. Okay. Now we're left with 4. Why did I leave these 4 till last? Because in 2012, a Serapeum, the Isidra project, where they went with a square, and even with that square, they were able to show, of course, all the lack of flatness and precision. Okay, but they did report these 4, 12, 8, 23, and 25 as having 90-degree corners. Okay. And that's why number 2, they didn't report it having 90-degree corners, because it's bleeding obvious. To the naked eye, it's bleeding obvious. And number 2 is highlighted, Yusef Ayawan, Brian Foster, and that they hang outside, and they say outside number 2, they describe that as precision, and when it's again clearly not. So, and again, that they cannot not see that unless it is like a mind fungus where you cannot even tell a straight line. And as soon as you get involved with lost ancient high technology to that level, you lose your senses and your reasoning. Okay, so 2012, box number 25, is it a project noted inside corners are 90 degrees in that their square fit neatly into the corner. Again, that on its own by precision standards is not a perfect way of doing it. But they did return in 2013, and they also took measurements of this particular one. 90.8, 91, 91.3. We can eliminate number 25. Number 25 is not precise either. Proven conclusively. Okay, we get to number 8. Inside corners are 90 degrees. They did not return with a better instrument to measurement, but based on that's 25 initial report 90 degrees with a standard tool and then with a better tool. Okay, so this needs to be taken into account. So this hasn't been measured, fair enough, but not perfect 90 degree corners and perfect flatness. Well, again, they'll say, well, the outside is not precise, all right, but it's okay. Now, again, not the perfect method, but just by running a line and comparing it, not looking good. Maybe the dust in the corners is messing up the image a little bit, but okay, it's not looking good. But all we need is to do is shine a light on the issue, and this distortion, this deviation there in the reflection is proof, undeniable, that number 8 is not precise. You can even see the lid there. Maybe it's some little bit of illusions going on because different levels of it hasn't been cleaned nicely, but there has been some damage to it. But even the parts that haven't, like I'm looking at, like no serious person is going to say that that's precision, even just by eyeballing that part. Okay. Again, with a naked eye, you can detect imperfections that might not even be picked up by a straight edge. Okay, we can eliminate number 8. Okay, it's not looking good. Number 12. Here we have lots of photos from the outside, a few from the inside, but none of them really give a lot of detail in there. I would look at some of them, and again, just by eyeballing them, again, he asked me to bet. I'm going to put all my money on that it's not precise and it has the same level of deviation you can see in all the others, but I can't conclusively rule it out, so I'm going to make number 12 a white X. No evidence, which leaves us with the box in niche number 23, which is the granddaddy of them all. It's the master one. It's the one that everyone relies on because that's where those photos of Christopher Dunn, those dodgy, grainy, distant photos that show nothing, but actually they do show something. But box number 23, this was the one that was exploded open. I don't know why it was exploded open, because even at that time in the 1800s, they could have, with off-the-shelf equipment, they could have pulled the lid off. I don't know why it was done, but it's damaged. Okay. Just There's a view from the inside. These are all from number 23. Now, remember the filleted corners. Now, this one seems to be quite more sharp. That one seems to be quite rounded, and even again now by the like, there's a distortion there. All right, now corners. Let's look at that corner. Now this photo in the top right. Sorry, getting my left and right. That's from the video called Serapeum Part 3 by a channel called Igor Travels the World. And I mean, these little divots could have damage done later, or maybe damage that wasn't buffed out when they first made it. But it's not looking good. All right, 23. Older photo. It's the holy grail for precision, lost high technology, because we'll see that's where the entire basket of evidence rests, and it rests in this particular box. Remember, perfect corners, perfect flatness. This is the hill on which it lives or dies. There is Christopher Dunn inside box 23. Again, that's the evidence that's been provided. 2 decades, all of this. How many hundreds of thousands of dollars being invested into tours and all these things. This is the best. These 20-year-old photos still used as evidence. Now, okay, let's look at it. Now, we see there. Now, there's a lot of giveaways that it's number 23. It's never highlighted which box it is, but see, we can see the graffiti there on the top. We know exactly where it is. Serapeum Part 3 by Igor Travels the World. He's inside box number 23 as well, with Yusef Ayawan, the guy who owns the tour companies. What they all go through there. The master mason, the guy who understands how physics works and how and how stones can't be moved and ramps don't work. Okay, well that's the guy. See there in the corner. Now again, even the way the light reflects there from that little lamp in the corners, that's enough of a giveaway, but there's a lot more. Now, Christopher Dunn took those photos. We can go down in that, like it's 6 feet away. If he was to just kneel down and look in the corner there, he would see what's bleeding obvious, even just to the eye. Okay, now isn't there? There's a fisheye effect noticeable. I think it was maybe a GoPro maybe did it, but those lines are straighter. There's a bowing there, but that's an illusion of the camera, not of real life. However, reflections such as that are an absolute giveaway that this surface is not precise flatness. This alone proves it. But then we have a picture of the interior corner. Again, Izetta Project gives us great pictures on important details. Now I'm just going to change the contrast there, because you can see where that rounded corner is, again, very, very imprecise, inconsistent. Okay, simple little observations is all you need to find imprecision. Okay, so on the left-hand side, the original, and on the right-hand side, I have the same, but I've just changed the contrast and a little bit just to highlight it. It's imprecise. Now there's that, we see that corner there. Now notice in the corner how there's a groove that's been cut into there. Common theme we saw also with other examples. The makers didn't even bother, so they've drilled a hole down in the corner, and they didn't even bother to create a nice tangent from that corner there. They've left it so even by hand working standards, it's not great. That's the part that I mean, just in case you're confused. And again, distortions in the light. Alright, so number 23. Now we have Chris Dunn's, he was there with a production crew, but he's got some dodgy out of focus photos. Like, again, that's meaningless, but let's take his word for it of what he says. Well, it doesn't reflect the reality. Different corners have different levels of workmanship. And I say workmanship, not machine, because it's workmanship by people, not by machines. So all of his stuff, okay, no, it's just not true, and it should be obvious to those. So we go back to, this was 16, again, at the top of the corner it's a bit sharper, at the bottom of the corner it's rough. They go out of their way not to show you these types of details, but they say precision, 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 proven by Christopher Dunn, proven it cannot be done with dynastic tools. It's proven you cannot make these marks, categorically impossible to make these marks with hand working tools. It's all bullshit. Alright, now again, this is imprecise by any definition. By hand working standards, it's not high quality. Again, like even with the different reflections, I'll put the links. Igor Travels the World, Serapeum Part 3, if I don't put the link in there. But paying attention to details and looking at things, it's all falling apart. Now we're going to come to an important part, the nail in the coffin in this regard. So there we see the picture by Gregor Spory inside number 23. We can see that little S there. We know where it is. Almost identical position. He's just a little bit away. So Christopher Dunn's photo. Now let's look. Firstly, you notice that there's light shining through there. Now the light should be, has Gregory shown, the light should be there directly behind it. Chris Dunn's two photos with those lights is, well, he's holding the lamp at, that's not the place. You got to have it nicely there. He's holding it there at an angle for a start. Now, the photo is so low res that it's worthless in any sort of type of sense. Now, it's hard to, because it's basically, I get down to pixels, but it seems to me that there could be light shining there, but okay, maybe not. But still, there's enough evidence there to make the case, because let's look at this one close up. So just like with the Zeta project and using their straight edge, let's go back. Even by zooming in, and even at that low resolution, that's not making contact. This, there's a contact point, and I think there's a contact point here, but we can see it's not there. And it seems to be the same at the top. But again, this is worthless as information. You can testify all you want, but if you want to rewrite history and bring in a new civilization, or suggest that the Egyptians were working with super advanced civilization, and basically just change the whole, all of the archaeological record, this ain't good enough, buddy. This is not. You've got to put in. At least 2 cents worth, and then before you ask other people to go spend hours and hours and big dollars making a replica. Because this is in Chris Dunn in his book. He says, well, the experimentalist must repeat the most difficult feature. They must do this. They must do that. Yes, we would. If this is what you got, then you got nothing. All right, you're full of it, buddy. All right, you've done nothing. Now again, you often see, well, the experimentalists must do this precisely, but they provide nowhere. Like, why must we replicate a precision sarcophagus when you can't even provide evidence of precision? If that was reversed the other way, I mean, it would be ridiculous. It's a con. They know it's a con. That's why they suppress information. Even the archaeological, they say, well, it's not in the archaeological record. Either they haven't read it, or they're suppressing that as well, in which case their opinion, this means nothing. But furthermore, all right, let's go further, because there is evidence of the lack of imprecision in this particular photo. And yeah, all right, let's okay, so we go back to 17. Again, it's not flat, and that's what seems to be, I mean, no, all right. So again, even so, that was taken at a different moment. So as he's moving, It's not flat, no. Now we're going to look for mirror polish. This is one of mirror polish is not a big deal. Not a big deal at all. We'll look at that now. Now, for instance, if we close up, now you can even see the markings on the ruler are being reflected on that particular lid. The person's finger is being reflected on that particular lid. It's not flat. So Christopher Dunn mentions using optical accuracy. Well, first, any surface, the most unflat surface can be polished and it will reflect. No big deal on its own. Okay, now let's look at that reflection. Go back to sarcophagus 23. We can see the reflections there. Now remember, Christopher Dunn in his book said that there was no aberration, no distortion in the reflection. Well, yes it is. I don't know what you think, mate, but in the real world that's a distorted reflection. So even with the low res image you can't hide that in there. Now even with that's again, even with pixelated, you can tell that there are noticeable distortions in there. Another point is the angle of a shot. So whenever you see these reflections, they're always where the camera is at a very sharp angle. Again, links in the description. I've polished a whole bunch of stuff to get this mirror reflection angle, and mine are much higher quality, and it didn't take very long. So again, I'm saying that not only was the Serapeum made by hand, it wasn't made to a high standard by hand. They're not 90 degrees, they're not perfectly flat, and so forth. And you can sort of do these. There's nothing special at all about doing this with these primitive methods. And one that's been doing the rounds as well, like Baraba Caves, that have incredible Mauryan polish, mirror finish. Well, no, they're not. They're not good at all. It's impressive, sort of, but if you spend a few minutes or in just a few hours sort of doing any work and experimenting, it's not only not advanced technology, even by polishing standards, you could do better. And it wouldn't take that long either. So again, they're always at that angle. Now again, notice that the photo is always at that sharp, so it's a sharp angle, flat angle coming off the side there. That's the only way you can get those reflections. If they were mirror polished, just like where you could take a photo of yourself in the mirror directly straight ahead, but you'll never see that in these particular, whether it's at the Baraba Caves or the Serapeum. So you get a reflection of light, but not a reflection of image. And so the images are only reflected when the camera is held at a flat angle, basically following that wall. So back to that, there are distortions in there, and that proves it's not precision flat. So we can eliminate number 23. Okay, eliminate it. There's your final results. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 18, 19, 20, 21 and 22. No evidence has been provided for those. And again, don't need advanced equipment to go and do it. Even some very simple observations will reveal it. But so I can't rule them out as being machine precision. But if no evidence is presented, then you can't say that they are. And then based on the fact. Okay, so let's just end the video here. The ones in red, absolutely demonstrably not precision. Not only are they absolutely unequivocally imprecise, the flaws in them, even by hand working standards, are not great. It's not fantastic. So done. Now we have the ones in white. No evidence has been presented. We have those who claim that, those might be precise. Well, the evidence presented by people such as Ahmad Adli or Christopher Dunn are in different boxes, and those which are the holy grails will look at this evidence, such as 23 and 24, are absolutely not precise. They are not machined. They're not to a standard of metrology equivalent to surface plates, the right angles. If one's there, if the other isn't there, we can eliminate those. If you're going to present a claim, it is up to you to provide the evidence. Now, the only evidence that exists, including the evidence provided by those promoting lost ancient high technology, lost advanced civilization, is evidence of the opposite of their claim. Proof of the opposite of their claim in that. So for those who say, well, it has to be reproduced, so again, just it cannot be done with dynastic era tools. The precision requires advanced machinery and metrology, therefore evidence of a lost civilization. So it is not precise, and links, I'll try to remember to put the links in the other video. So things such as the schist disc or the stone vases, absolutely not symmetrical or precise either. Again, no evidence has been presented in that, but even the evidence they present, which are photos, it is clear, absolutely clear, that they are imprecise and the flaws are obvious. If you look for them, if you just hear this mantra, it's precision, it cannot be done, tools can't do it. These marks cannot be replicated by primitive. Well, no, this is demonstrably untrue. All right, so back to Christopher Dunn. Now, again, that especially. Now, again, as we saw at the start, he said these things have not been measured. My straight edge is not a proper measure of these things, and it needs to be, studies have to be made. Well, even with imprecise tools, Mr. Dunn, it's clear that those boxes are absolutely, just undeniably imprecise. But in his conclusions, he says to arrive at this level of precision, the manufacturers would have needed metrology instruments not have been found in the archaeological record. Well, that may be so. None have been found in the archaeological record, but no evidence of precision has been found in the archaeological record either. Taking a few pictures of statues, drawing some nice geometries over them isn't any proof. But also, I'll do that in a separate video because, for instance, there's claims of a statue and there's all these, precise numbers in the statue. It's not. If you even look at the images he's provided and he's overlaid with these geometries, they don't match up either. Again, pictures look nice, but the devil's in the detail. So no precision has been found, but a lot of imprecision has been proven. So those who say, well, why don't you demonstrate with dynastic tools how to replicate one of these boxes with 90-degree angles, perpendicular sides, and so smooth, light doesn't shine through the ruler? Well, big deal. Again, demos I've showed. I'll put the playlist in the description. And so if it was precise and you could demonstrate, well, you've proven otherwise, but if they were, then such a demand can be made. But I can't point at a random object, say, well, that's nanometer perfect. Now you must replicate it. You can't ask someone to replicate something which does not exist. Okay, so so to Chris Dunn's The Four Rules, have experts rigorously examine and thoroughly examine the original artifact, paying close attention to the most difficult characteristics. Well, in the Serapeum boxes, yeah, okay, there's nothing there of interest. It's a granite box by the experiments that have been done using flint tools to make corners, to drill out, to hollow the block, using the plug and feather, the wedge technique to break the original blocks apart, hollow them out using drilling and the grinding techniques in there. So yes, you can do these, and to arrive at the imprecise angles, no one should have to replicate something. All of the steps have been done, and then saying, well, I won't, you've done all the steps, but you haven't done it together in one big box. Like, no, if you demand that, then you don't understand the reality of the world and the way the world works. These are just big granite boxes. That's all there is. If you're mystified by a granite box, then, well, God help you, no one else will. Describe the theorized methods used by the Egyptians. Not only the theorized methods have been described, examples have been shown going through all the different steps. The only argument that can be made is speed, but also with the experiments that have been done, the speed is totally feasible to do within a realistic time frame. So, okay, now perform the work, including that which is most difficult. There's nothing difficult about these. It's a big granite box, right? Compare the experimental results with the original artifact. Okay, you really need to see a big granite box made to imprecise standards. The difficulty would be probably to replicate the flaws. Okay, if you want an exact replica, and that's what I've heard, you have to replicate it exactly. Okay, then we have to replicate the flaws exactly because the precision is not there. So those would say, well, I demand your labour, I'm not satisfied. Well, I don't really care. If the operations have been done individually, a team of 20 or 30 people, because that would include the support workers to do the tools and you didn't replicate it because you didn't have Egyptian grain brought into, you were eating McDonald's at lunch. So, you have to do it or you weren't using Nile water. There's always an excuse to get out of it. So, I'd love to do this, and I just for my personal interest, but for those who say, I demand to see it done before I believe it, well, I don't care about you. I really don't. This is just a big granite box. Links in the description as well. I showed other videos where, like, stoneworkers using chisels, steel chisels made granite boxes in no time at all. Old-fashioned, not carbide steel chisels, old-fashioned steel chisels. The work has been done to show that the flint and copper tools can hollow out that box, grind that box. That's done. It's finished. Nothing to see here. So if you've got nothing to present in terms of evidence, and now I must say, Brian Foster, in his tour, which is really Yusuf Ayawan's tour, people jump in those boxes all the time. So they'll say, well, we can't go because we're going to get in trouble. You can get one of those people in there to go in there with the tools to do it, because just like Bright Insight did, he paid off a guy to sneak in illegally into the asshole of the Sphinx, and then it wasn't me. Okay, so no, it was you, Jimmy. Okay, so don't play this. Don't come to raw prawn with me and sort of play this game. The problem with telling fibs is that you got to be really, really good at it not to get caught out. So, next video, I'll just go through the experiments that have been done, and we know the cutting rates, we know the grinding rates. I've done it myself. The Lost High Technology people should be. They've had 2 decades. They should have done all this work already. So whether it's a scientist against Smith or myself, or the other work such as by Dennis Stocks and other people, which is carefully filtered out, so this is never shown. Let's go with that sort of. I'd love to do it, no problem. But this is expensive work. It's takes time, takes money, takes people to do. But the individual steps have been done. So if I can make one corner, we'll make corners. If you want to drill it out, we can hollow it out. We can polish flat, and not only that, get better levels of here, because a lot of these boxes, which precision, you can see flaws there where they haven't, even with a couple of hours with that team, they could have polished things off and made them even nicer. They could have got flatness with a little bit more grinding work in there. They were cutting corners throughout. So just like the Great Pyramid, massive precision cut blocks. No, it's nicely fitted stone on the outside. The inside is rubble and mortar. So what can you do? That's it. Evidence presented for Lost High Technology precision at the Serapeum of Saqqara. All the measurements, all of them, including the ones which are pro ancient high technology, prove that there is no precision there. You still got to hope. There are a few boxes where there's not good quality photos on the inside, where you can see the reflections and maybe angles haven't been taken, but based on everything else, including the boxes that you yourself highlight as the ones, it's not there. So don't ask me to replicate something which does not exist. So over and out, that's it. Serapeum of Saqqara. Not only is there no evidence, the evidence is proof of the lack of proof of imprecision. So we can leave it at that. Let's stick with reality. Let's look at evidence, and let's not have to conceal it. Because if you have to censor, then your narrative has a big problem. And if you have to ignore things that you know are there and pretend that it's not there, or you haven't seen it, well, it's a fib, mate. That's a fib. And if you take money and profit from something you know to be untrue, that's fraud. Over and out.
24 mighty, precision-carved, single-piece stone boxes.
It's false. No way. Not this time.
From the unrelenting precision and flatness of the interiors of these boxes to
We created it. Not this time. No.
Precision, they're within a 10,000th of an inch of being perfectly flat.
Not this time. It's totally made up. Pure fiction.
Engineered is completely amazing. We're talking perfect 90-degree angles, and we're also talking...
It's fiction. It's fiction. We made it up. We made this one up. It's a made-up...
Workers, I think, is most prominent in the Serapeum. You go underground in Saqqara and you find these absolutely huge granite stone boxes that are made with such precision. It looks like a modern-day machine has cut them.
Not this time. It never happened. It's false. It never happened.
Perfect square corners. This is where Chris Dunn went in with a level bevel to 2/10,000ths of an inch. He put his light on it. No light came through. So we say estimated at least tolerance of 2/10,000ths of an inch, which is not called for today.
It's a fake. It's fiction. It's an urban legend that